In this edition of Southern Newsweek, the DCC focuses on preventing further mud tank problems after emails released show the issue is not a new one. The HMNZS Otago sails in for several events and the opportunity to draw in some new recruits. And a redevelopment at Dunedin Hospital could get underway as soon as July if the green light is given at a national level. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Email correspondence has revealed the Dunedin City Council knew about mud tank problems before last June's flooding. The DCC has released a report into the failings of South Dunedin infrastructure during the severe weather event. And now staff are looking to the future to see how they can prevent it from happening again.
Opening the floodgates for debate. The DCC is looking to address infrastructure problems in South Dunedin that compounded the effects of last June's flooding. It follows the release of a report last week, but one councillor has been trying to get staff to address unkempt mud tanks since he first started noticing them in 2011.
I found that more than half of them were inoperative because they were just absolutely chocker full. When it rained, the rain would just flow over the top of them. I started writing emails to staff to try to get them to do something about it. I counted up the number of emails I've written in the last 4 years on it, and it came to over 100.
The report found that 75% of the mud tanks in South Dunedin were not functioning properly and were neglected by contractors. The report also found if the tanks had been in working order, a number of them wouldn't be able to take the rainfall and flooding still would have resulted. Fulton Hogan has since lost its contract with the DCC and CityCare will handle maintenance from now on. Council staff accept they failed to monitor what was happening and take responsibility.
On behalf of the executive, apologise for that. That is a management failure. That is not a governance failure, and we have and we are taking steps to rectify that.
The council's now looking at what it can do to ensure severe flooding doesn't happen again. It'll work with the Otago Regional Council moving forward to create strategies. Vandervis thinks requests or queries should be immediately uploaded to a council webpage for public viewing so they can be addressed.
There is the possibility of now having a much better fixogram type system set up where people can actually take a photo of a mud tank or a pothole or trees near power lines, send it into the DCC, have it go straight on the website, have it logged, dated and timed so that something really will be done.
The council's long-term plan may be adjusted to include plans for South Dunedin's infrastructure. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
Electric vehicles were causing a buzz in the Octagon recently. More than a dozen were on display as part of a national tour promoting their use. But advocates concede widespread uptake is a long-term goal.
Charged and ready to go. This $220,000 Tesla is in Dunedin as part of a national electric vehicle tour from Cape Reinga to Bluff.
So we're just basically trying to get people to see the electric vehicles, find out what they're all about.
This is the second annual electric vehicle tour run by the Better New Zealand Trust. The organisation's aiming to promote electric vehicle use among other sustainable practices. But trustees know widespread uptake will take time, with costs relatively high and supply low.
There's a gap in the price. The volumes in the world sort of aren't high enough for the manufacturers yet, so they do tend to come in a little bit more expensive. We've got a leaf, second-hand leaves in New Zealand are going for about 25, so that is an affordable option but has a more limited range.
Local electric car owners and advocates have been getting on board, meeting the touring vehicles on their way into the city. The Trust is pushing for companies and organisations to buy corporate fleets of EVs to drive up supply.
And once you get a few fleets in the market in second hand, then that makes the availability there for more people.
That's already starting to happen with Air New Zealand, the latest big firm to purchase a fleet. More public charging stations are also popping up, including in Dunedin, making long trips easier.
So we used everything from motel sockets to the fast charging network, which is rapidly developing in New Zealand.
Tour drivers are heading south through Balclutha and Invercargill before finishing in Bluff tomorrow. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
The HMNZS Otago has recently made an important visit to Dunedin. The offshore patrol vessel was in the city ahead of Anzac Day commemorations as well as several other Navy-specific events. And the visit was also a chance for potential new recruits to see where they could soon be working.
Back in its home waters, the HMNZS Otago has been cruising into Otago Harbour for a 5-day stop in Dunedin. Royal New Zealand Navy staff on board are getting set for a busy and significant long weekend in the city.
The ship Otago is down here for a couple of reasons. The first one is for the Anzac Day commemorations on Monday, and also for the whole weekend as part of the RNZN's 75th anniversary celebrations.
Part of the anniversary festivities include a public open day this weekend for residents to tour the ship. A charter parade is also being planned through the city, and Sorensen hopes it'll help entice some new recruits.
So really it's an historical thing that they used to do, to march through the cities, and it was actually as a part of a recruitment drive, so hopefully have that effect on Saturday as well.
This morning a group of potential recruits got an exciting ride out of the harbour to explore the ship before it docked. Naval officers say it's all about getting a first-hand glimpse at what a seaborne career can entail. That's something Sorensen knows a lot about, having only been in his current role since August.
It's been good. It's a great learning experience after rising through the ranks on various ships, and then finally getting a chance to command is a real honour and something that's been quite exciting so far.
The Protector class vessel has travelled south from Auckland after operational exercises with several other ships in the Hauraki Gulf. It'll head back to the naval base at Devonport next week before launching into fisheries patrols in the South Pacific. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
A new digital space at the city's main library is helping the public to permanently preserve content. It's the result of a partnership between the City Council and the local Lebanese community, which is seeking to create a lasting legacy. But the new centre and accompanying archive is set to be an asset for the entire community.
Preserving the past in a modern way. A new digitisation centre and archive is now open to the public at the Central Dunedin Public Library. The project is the result of a $65,000 donation from the Cedars of Lebanon Club, which has been investing in legacy projects for more than 10 years.
Another part of the footprint was talking to the city librarian, Bernie Hawke. I said to him we wanted to have something that was visible and enduring for the club, and he came up with this idea. And that's how it was born.
Joseph says members of the local Lebanese community have been gathering and recording their history for years with the intention of making information permanently available. With their culture almost fully integrated, he says it's essential to have a permanent record of the past.
With the geographical spread that's occurred over the years and the passing of our people, our community is far less defined and structured than it was in years gone by. So if our generation doesn't preserve the history now, my fear is that it'll be lost forever.
He's hoping a range of other groups and ethnic communities will make use of the centre, preserving their own local history in perpetuity. A newly launched digital archive is also part of the space, allowing the public to search what's been uploaded by groups as well as the library itself.
It's there to collect the stories and histories of Dunedin individuals and groups, and so that's really the community engagement side of it, but it's also a resource for us to embed our digitised heritage collections.
Members of the public can help to digitise several thousand index records covering content from as far back as the 1850s. It's a huge project that staff envisage will take many years, but with the new centre, they're off to a good start. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
A major upgrade of critical care facilities at Dunedin Hospital is waiting in the wings. Staff are expecting the planned redevelopment to be approved for funding on a national level, and changes could begin as soon as July.
Waiting for the go-ahead. Top SDHB staff have been planning an $11 million overhaul of the intensive care unit at Dunedin Hospital. Now they're waiting on the government to approve the project as part of a wider portfolio of work.
They're supporting us with redeveloping our gastroenterology service as well as our audiology service as well as our ICU and HDU. So we're pretty excited about that, and we're full steam ahead on those programs of work. In particular, we're waiting now on confirmation of that funding for the ICU.
If the upgrade's signed off, it'll mean a new purpose-built critical care facility on the hospital's 5th floor. Construction of the first half is set to start in October. That'll see several departments and services shifted around the hospital to compensate.
I don't think we should underestimate that there will be noise impacts. There will certainly be perhaps detours or changed signage or information on people's appointment cards that are a change to what they might be used to.
Neurosurgery, ears, nose and throat, neurology and ophthalmology will relocate to the third floor along with orthopaedics. That's scheduled to happen at the start of July. Other fifth floor services will be moved as required throughout the project, which will bring the ageing ICU up to the top standard.
The current intensive care unit is at the sharp end of the hospital service. You know, it's the highest level of medicine practice in the hospital, so it has to be very good. But it really hasn't changed since the late 70s, early 80s.
The new and improved ICU is expected to be up and running by the end of next year or in early 2018. It'll allow more space and privacy for patients and their families and a more efficient and modern working environment for an increased number of staff. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, an old tin shed becomes a science laboratory that'll be used to study food. And we meet a man who's decided it's a good idea to run from the Southern Alps to Oamaru. Welcome back. A former shed at the University of Otago is being used for research into the science of food. The converted laboratory was opened recently, fulfilling a need within the university and the wider food industry. And the building's history goes back decades.
Testing out their new workspace. These students are getting stuck into the university's new food research lab, which opened this week to facilitate a growing need for food science.
The redevelopment, we would like to use this facility for the food processing and product development activities. That is important for our educations in the teaching in undergraduates, but also for postgraduate. We have also research together with the industry.
The tin shed will be used for a 6-year food industry technology scheme managed by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. Staff from local food businesses will undertake product development and testing inside the facility. They're able to trial ways of sterilising milk instead of using conventional pasteurisation and can learn how to make the perfect French fry with the help of science.
That is a quite unique technology that we initiated in this country. So we have also the equipment in this facility as a unique equipment that we can deliver, and we believe that can have more benefits for our industry.
The shed has an extensive history. It was an American heart gifted 70 years ago to house home science students. It's also been a home science room, a storage shed and a workshop, but the latest renovation has seen it transformed for modern needs.
We have a long history with the tin shed, but now the growth of the students is a lot, and then we need more space, so that's why the tin shed back to their first functions become lab again.
The laboratory is being used as a temporary measure until the university's food science department has a more permanent facility. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
A long neglected church is being restored to its former glory in the central city. The refurbishment of the former Hanover Street Baptist Church is well underway ahead of its new musical occupants moving in. But there's a lot to get done in a short space of time.
Sizing up their new space, the former Hanover Street Baptist Church will soon be the home of the Dunedin Symphony Orchestra. The group's move comes after more than 30 years of being in Moray Place, and staff are excited for the change.
When we moved there, we were a smallish orchestra, but we're a much larger orchestra now, and that's registered also in our name change, because we've moved from being a symphonia to a symphony orchestra. So we've really outgrown our premises, and it's time to find a larger area for the orchestra to rehearse in.
The building's interior is currently being done up by the owners with a focus on maintaining heritage. Once that work's complete, orchestra staff will start on their own fit-out, including the installation of acoustic panels. Harris is looking forward to finally being able to move into the site she says is a perfect fit.
One of the nice things about this building is that it is a heritage building. It's Category 1, and it's just so in keeping with the style of the orchestral work too. And I think a lot of people who know this church are so pleased that it's going to be used by the orchestra.
Harris says there's been a significant amount of public interest in the revitalisation of the site, evidenced by a number of donations. The orchestra's total fit-out is estimated to cost around $300,000, a figure members are working hard to meet.
We've done stage 1 of that and very, very delighted with the public support. And stage 2 is the trust funding, and we're in the middle of that now. And stage 3 will be to sort of mop up the bits and pieces, and we might well be appealing for some public support for that too.
Harris is confident the entire redevelopment will be complete by the end of June, when the orchestra will officially move. There are plans for a public open day later in the year to show off the site in all its revitalised glory. Ruby McAndrew, 39 Dunedin News.
A Dunedin runner is taking on his biggest challenge yet as he prepares to run from the Southern Alps to Oamaru. He's planning to conquer a cycle track that's only ever been run once before in an effort which took 8 days. And the local man is hoping to achieve it in under 2.
Warming up for his biggest feat yet, this local runner is off to the Alps next week as he plans to traverse more than 300 kilometres non-stop.
I come up with this crazy idea, me and my mate did before Christmas, and we had a wee chat about it, and since then it starts in Mount Cook and runs to Oamaru. It's the cycle track, so I thought it would be a good idea to attempt to run it.
Sutton will be the first person to ever run the 301 kilometre track without stopping, and will have assistance from a crew the whole way. He says his biggest challenge will be the last 100 kilometres of the race. He's in the midst of training before attempting the run next weekend.
I've been doing a few 100-milers recently and just trying to keep fit and healthy once I finish them and complete them. So just running every second day at the moment, and anywhere between an hour and 8 hours at a time.
Sutton's no stranger to long-distance running, having competed in 11 100-mile races before. He's also twice completed the 217-kilometre Badwater Marathon in Death Valley in sweltering 40-degree temperatures. He says people question him for wanting to run such long distances, but they're personal goals he wants to achieve.
A lot of people ask me that, why, you can drive it, 300 Ks, 301 Ks, it's a lot easier, but I like a challenge, and just putting myself out there and doing crazy things like this just ticks my boxes.
Sutton leaves Mount Cook next Friday morning and hopes to arrive in Oamaru in the early hours of Sunday. Annabelle Dick, 39 Dunedin News.
And just ahead on Southern Newsweek, residents are invited to be scared witless in Dunedin's very own House of Horrors, despite the fact it's a charitable experience. And the Pacific Island community focuses on raising funds for Fijians still affected by a devastating cyclone. Welcome back. Dozens of residents are paying to be scared silly for charity, with a thrilling show taking place in the Octagon. The Dunedin Horror House is being decked out with spooky gear and blood-stained actors to give people the ultimate adrenaline rush. And it's all for a good cause.
This is many people's worst nightmare. A house full of horrors has transformed the Octagon, Athenium's basement, all for giving residents the ultimate fright night.
It's going to be an intensive experience, so it's going to be very full on and very brutal for the customer to go through.
Customers will be walking through the medical-themed setup that's plagued with scary actors, mannequins and toys. Foley's no stranger to this, having held events all around the country to raise more than $100,000 for charity. He's done it for the past 5 years for organisations like South Canterbury Cancer Society and Plunket, as well as for sporting individuals. This time the money's going to Heart Kids Otago.
I believe Heart Kids don't get any government funding, so the more that we got in, the better it would be. But, they're very grateful for what they are about to receive, I guess you could say.
The charity supports families of children with heart problems who are constantly going in and out of hospital. Local woman Angela Evans is one of several people receiving help from the organisation. Money raised locally will assist families like hers to be better looked after during their child's medical battle.
And it's an absolute privilege to have him here, and I hope everybody gets behind this cause. It's wonderful. There's all these lovely little babies that have got a zipper down their chest, and these very, very brave parents.
The Horror House will be running on Friday and Saturday nights this weekend and next. For $25, punters can leave their hearts well and truly beating. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
Creative residents have been knitting winter woolies to raise funds for Dunedin Women's Refuge. The organisation is being donated the proceeds from an auction run by the Northern Artery Collective, and the money's going towards a family bonding project.
Gathering for a Mad Hatter's tea party. Residents donned their most inventive headgear for a charity afternoon tea run by the Northern Artery Collective on Saturday. About 30 handcrafted and knitted hats and hot water bottle covers were auctioned, and about 100 other items were up for sale.
And they've been made by various people around the community, but particularly by the clients at Art Centre who are in town. They've made the most amazing hats and hottie covers.
For $12 a head, people could enjoy an afternoon tea and partake in the auction or buy from a sales table. About $2,000 was raised in total, with all auction items selling on the day. The money's going to Te Whare Pounamu, Dunedin Women's Refuge. It's a charitable organisation with personal meaning for organisers.
Women's Refuge has a really close it's a close thing to my heart. I have been a client of Women's Refuge, and they have helped me a lot in a time of need, and so I really wanted to do something back for them.
Te Whare Pounamu is planning to use the money to print more copies of a cookbook for kids. It's aimed at making the kitchen a safe place for children and parents to bond. The auction and afternoon tea was also an avenue for the people of Art Centre, who use creative expression to deal with mental health issues. Punters were encouraged to indulge their wacky wardrobe fantasies for a frivolous feel.
But this is made by a client at Art Centre, and I believe it's a Star Wars type hat. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it suits me.
Northern Artery's done this kind of thing before, raising money for the local hospice and other charitable groups. Members are aiming to spread art among the community and in this case ensure residents are rugged up and ready for winter. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
The local Pacific Island community is showing solidarity with Fiji in the wake of Cyclone Winston. Extensive damage caused by the severe storm earlier this year has prompted a relief concert in the city, and organisers are beyond pleased with the support they're receiving for the cause.
It's more than 2 months after disaster struck Fiji, but the impact of February's Cyclone Winston is still very much evident on the ground. That's prompted staff at the University of Otago Pacific Island Centre to stage a relief concert.
We want to raise some money to help the Fijian community back in Fiji, as we know that they were devastated by Cyclone Winston earlier this year, where people lost their lives and families still trying to rebuild. So as a community in Dunedin, we thought we'll get together and raise some funds.
Local fundraising efforts have the Dunedin City Council's support, with organisers given a grant to cover their use of the town hall. Backing has also come from the Highlanders, with 2 rugby jerseys donated by the team to be raffled off. Kirifi Alai says the local assistance is particularly heartening for residents with ties to Fiji.
Because at the university we have students from ethnic groups who are themselves displaced as well, and also worrying about families back home. So this is like coming together. We're here to support you, and if we raise a lot of money, that'll be the bonus. But it's being together with family.
It's not just Fijians rallying for the cause, with several representatives from other local Pacific Island communities joining in. Kirifi Alai says it's all about uniting to help one another in times of need.
We're a very close-knit community. You know, like I work for the Pacific Island Centre at the University of Otago, so it's like the hub for the community, and it's not the first we've done. We've had others for other communities that have been devastated as well by natural disasters in the past.
They didn't set a fundraising target, but organisers are pleased with the more than $6,000 raised. All donations have been given to the New Zealand Red Cross to help with the work its staff are doing on the ground in Fiji. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
And finally, motorbike enthusiasts have been racing a historic track to mark a local organisation's milestone. The Otago Motorcycle Club recently celebrated its 70th anniversary. And some of the biggest Kiwi riders made an appearance to honour the achievement.
Preparing for an uphill battle, these motorcyclists are taking part in one of Dunedin's historic bike races that's been running for 70 years.
This is a Tarseel hill climb up a very steep and gnarly hill. Today it's going to be pretty slippery as it's obviously wet, ideally suited to dirt bikes, off-road bikes, but there's a few road bikes here as well.
28 riders aged from in their teens to their 80s congregated to take part in the Bethune's Gully hill climb. The steep uphill race was initially a gravel track until it was converted to Tarseel 25 years ago. Saturday's rainy weather didn't help attempts to break records, but this year was more of a celebratory affair than a race.
We're not worrying about records. It's here to help celebrate the 70th anniversary of the club. The hill climb's got a lot of meaning to a lot of members, as I say, dating back to 1946, so it was thought that it was an ideal event for the anniversary celebrations.
Motocross world number 2 Josh Coppins of Motueka made an appearance, as well as Dunedin expat Jeff Nash. He's the former president of the Otago Motorcycle Club and moved to Dallas, Texas 26 years ago to run North America's biggest Ducati franchise. Nash was invited back to make a guest appearance and celebrate his motorcycle roots.
It's really enjoyable, actually. It's so great to catch up with so many faces that I hadn't seen in so many years. So we all look a bit older and hopefully a little wiser.
The race has held a long history in the region, with the world's fastest Indian, Burt Munro, once taking part as well. The Otago Motorcycle Club hopes to grow the event for the future to entice even more bike riders of all types and ages. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Remember to check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can take a look at our website at dunedintv.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.